Hey class, this week we are going to be learning about file streams. This is when you read and write to different files, so text files or a CSV or anything like that. So the first thing we need to understand is what a stream is. So far, when we've been learning about cout statements and cin statements, that stands for console out and console in. Those are actually called streams, and if you recall, they come from the library IO stream, which is input output stream. Basically, think of it as like a stream or a river. Data enters it and flows down, and then eventually exits out of it. That's in the data world, in the programming world. That's what streams are as well. With take cin for example, you are the user is entering data from their keyboard. It's entering this data stream and then is being outputted to the console via a cout statement. So an input stream is when it flows into your program. Think of like a cin, and an output is when it flows out of your program. Think of a cout. So so far we've been familiar with streams via the IOStream library, but there are other libraries that have similar features. IOStream, there is iStream and OStream, and then SStream as well. iStream stands for input stream, OStream stands for output stream, and what's interesting is the cin and cout statements actually come from iStream and OStream, but they are inherited from the IOStream class. So that's why we can put IOStream and get cin statements and cout statements. But for this week, we are going to learn specifically about iStreams and OStreams and maybe a little bit about SStreams. So the predefined ones are cin, which is standard input from the keyboard. So that's when a user inputs something into their keyboard and data enters the program. Cout is the standard output to the console. So data is displayed to the console and coming out of your program. Cerr is a standard error output. So you would put that if you only wanted to display things that have gone wrong with your program. And a clog is a buffered version of that. So it's exactly what a cerr is, but it is logged. Say it's saved somewhere in your computer, so you can kind of go back and track it that way. So file input outputs, the library this comes from is fstream, which is file stream. And there are three classes derived from the fstream library. You have ifstream, which is input file stream, ofstream, which is output file stream, and fstream, which is input and output. So when we are talking about reading and writing, not to the console but to an actual file, we would need to include the fstream class. So the way that you can access a file, and I'm specifically talking about reading the contents of a file, there are two ways. You have random access and you have sequential access. Random access, as you can see from this graphic here, is when you directly grab exactly what you were looking for. This, you can imagine, is a little bit more memory efficient, but it is harder to code. Sequential means it pretty much goes through a stack, so it has to read each item until it gets to what it's looking for. We are going to be doing sequential access this week when we're doing our file streams. Another way to look at it is an analogy. Think of if you needed to grab a tennis ball. A random access would be like a box, and you can see all the tennis balls there, and you can reach in and grab the one you want. Sequential access would be like the tennis balls are in one of those tubes. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. And the one you want's the third one down. You have to take out the other two before you get to that one. So as far as outputs goes, this is kind of what the code would look like. So of course we're including IOStream, and then we're also including this fstream, this file stream. The first thing you want to call is this ofstream class, right? And then the object that you're instantiating, you can call it whatever you want. You'll see a lot of people call it out. I actually like calling it F out because we're used to C out, right? Console output. If you put F out, it would be file output. But really, you can put whatever you want. The next thing you'd want to do is you want to call this function, this class function, this member function, I should say, called open. And you do object out.open, and then within the parentheses, you would pass in the file that you want. And then right here, you would put how you're going to write. So if you just put out here, you're just simply just writing it to a text file. Now, right here in the parentheses, I want to emphasize that if you just put hello.txt or without a path here, by default, it's going to save it in your build directory. So every time, actually, I'll just show you right here. Okay, so normally when you have your homework you've been doing all semester, you have these different folders here. And I've told you, don't touch the VS Code one, don't touch the build one. The things you want would be, source for our CPP files, include for our header files, and then files, actually we haven't used yet, but you can, if you wish, save your files that you're writing to here. But by default, if you were just to do that .txt file with no path, it would actually be saved. It would actually be saved in this build file, so you can expand this and get to it. If you just want it, here, you would actually want to put 2 dots and a /. So right here, you put 2 dots, which means go back a directory, and then a /, and that would tell you to just kind of back up one. Or kind of the simplest thing to do is get the entire path of where you want to save it, and you paste that in here. I will say that with /, those are reserved in C++, so you actually need to do a double /. So, to kind of show you guys, if it was like desktop and then file.txt, if your path was this, you'd actually want to do 2 slashes here. But and then now that you've opened the file, the next thing you want to do is you want to use this just like you would like a cout statement. Instead of putting cout here, you would just call your object, which in this case is out. You still want to do those extraction operators, and then you can actually print what you want to do. And what you're doing here is you're actually writing this to a file, right? Instead of outputting it to the console, you are outputting it to whatever text you want to write to. And then the last thing you want to do is out.close. .close is how we safely close our files. It's good practice to do this. You can cause memory leaks and issues if you keep the file open, so make sure you do that. Okay, what if you want to append? So far, if you were to write hello world, it would write to the text file, and then if you were to write something else, like hi, it would actually overwrite hello world and just write hi. But what if you want to keep a record of everything you've written? So hello world, then you write hi just beneath it, and so forth. You actually would need to change this part. So before it said out, now instead of putting out, you would actually put app for append. Now we are appending. So every time it's written, we are writing a new line, and it is being appended to the end of the file. And this is saved every time you run it. So any of you who play video games, often when you play a video game, you want to save your progress in the game, right? So next time you launch it, you're going to pick up where you left off. Very, very, very simply, you can do this through reading and writing files. You would write the progress, the code, and then next time it would read that file, and it would know where you left off. So it's that's how you do something like that. So file inputs. This is when you want to read something that is already from the file. So instead of putting OF stream, you're actually putting IF stream, input file stream. That's the class. And then the function here, or excuse me, the object here, I put fin for file in. And before I showed you a way to open it was you call your object and then you open it down here. Another way you could do this is instead of doing the dot open, you actually, everything in the parentheses here, you actually could have put in, you could have put a row up, and that would have been another way to do it. And same here with the IF stream. You actually can put it all in one line here. And what you're doing is, what is the text file, or what is the file that you're reading? And then what is the operation? Well, the operation is input. A couple of other things, some member functions that are important is EOF. That stands for end of file. And this just checks, it's a binary, the return type is Boolean, so true or false. Is it the end of the file? And then good. Is the stream error free? So how you would call these is you would do fin dot EOF with parentheses. You don't pass anything in the parameters. And this would just check, is it the end of the file? Yes or no? Or is the file error free? Yes or no? So here's another example, but an input example. We're still using fstream, file stream. And I'm just calling it in this one, numbers.txt, and I'm reading it, so it's an in. And what I'm doing here in this function is I am getting two integers, and I'm going to read those integers from a file that's numbers. So it's just a text file that's just full of numbers. And then I'm going to display what those two numbers are, and then I'm going to use those values and actually add them together. So n and m are the integers. In this while loop, notice that I have this exclamation point in.eof. So remember, EOF means end of file. Is it end of file? And then the exclamation point, if you recall, means not. So while it is not the end of the file, meaning while we are still reading things, we're going to just keep iterating through. In is what we called our object, our file object, and then we use these insertion operators, n and m. So what we're doing is we're reading n and we're reading m. So we're going down the list and we're going to read those. And when you read something, by default, it goes to the end of the line. So if n and m were on the same line, n would be populated with a number, and then m would be populated with a number. And that would be the end of the line. Then, if in.good, so as long as there wasn't an error there, we want to print n, a plus sign, and m. So if it was 2 and 3, it would be 2 plus 3 equals, and then it actually adds 2 plus 3. And then in.close at the very end to close the file. But before that, if we were still in that loop, it would go back up, and it would, as long as it wasn't the end of the file, it would read the next line. And it would grab the first one, then the second one, and then as long as there wasn't an error, it would do the same thing. And it would keep going all the way until it reaches the end. Once it reaches the end, it's going to close, and we're done. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is a function called getLine. GetLine is actually a function in the string library. So this is actually something we could have been using this whole semester, but it's very important to use now that we're talking about file streams. Basically what it does is it reads the characters from the input stream until it encounters a delimiter. So a delimiter is something that separates values. So a CSV file is a comma separated value file. It's delimited by commas. You may run into tab delimited files, so it's separated by tab spaces. There's all sorts that you can do. There's bar delimited, which are separated by the vertical bars. It doesn't matter. But essentially with getLine, you're saying, hey, I want you to read this line, the stream, until you reach the delimiter. By default, that would be a space, or a new line, excuse me, not space. It would be a new line, but you can define it. You can define it to be a space, you can define it to be a comma, or so forth. So if you look at this left if you look at this code here, we are declaring a string variable, calling it input line. And then we're saying, please enter a line of text. And then notice, instead of putting cin, we're actually calling this getLine function. The first parameter is the stream. So in this case, we're doing a cin statement. The second one is what variable, or what are we reading? And then, since I didn't do a third parameter, by default, it just means get to the end of the line. So this is input whatever is in this input line variable, and you're just going to put whatever's there until the end of the line. So if it was, I don't know, spot, it would say spot. If it was C spot run, it would print out C spot run until the end of the line, right? If you look over on the right, this gets a little more complicated because we're actually using S streams. But basically what I'm doing is I'm saying enter a comma separated list of values. So name, age, city. And so just imagine I typed in name, age, city. What's happening is I'm putting a cin here. I'm putting the input line. And then this would be the same as if like I only did 2 parameters. I'm checking for a new line. Then what's happening is I am getting an input stream, and I'm calling it stream, and it's an input line. And then a string called value. And then right here it says the values you entered are getLine. And what is the stream? The stream is actually an input stream that I put here. What is the value? The value is my string variable that will hold it. And what is the delimiter? The delimiter is a comma. So remember, if I did name, age, city, the very first thing it would print is name. And since it's in a while loop, what this is saying is, hey, while we're kind of going through each part of the stream separated by a comma, we're going to print the value. And then we're going to go up and we're going to check if there are still members of the stream we haven't encountered yet. So what this would do is it would go name, age, city. And you wouldn't see those commas because those are treated as delimiters, not as values of the stream. Now, very quickly, and it's a little bit outside of what we're doing this week, but it's good to know, it's really useful, is actually S streams. So we've been learning about F streams, which are file streams. S streams are string streams. It's the exact same principle, except instead of reading and writing from a file, you're reading and writing from a string variable. So notice here that input line is what it's reading and writing from instead of a file. Same principles though. All of this is still the same. Okay, that was a mouthful. But it's not too bad, I promise. Once again, if you need any help, let me know. I think you'll really enjoy the assignment this week. It's pretty fun. It's a pirate translator. So you type in an English word and it will spit out kind of a pirate translation. So it's pretty fun, pretty silly. Do your homework, research, do what you need to do. We're getting close to the end of the semester, so please let me know if you need anything, and good luck.